Good evening. This is This Week Tonight with John Irvin, and this evening I've got Gene Rio and Scott Leonard. Gene and Scott, welcome.
Pleasure.
Now,
Thank you.
a lot of you Nantucketers may recognize both of them, but a lot of folks may have seen Gene out on the street with her little card table, generally on Saturdays near the farmer's market, getting signatures. Gene, tell us about that.
Well, we operate not only near the farmers market, but in 3 different locations. We have whale information stations, and people come by. I ask them to sign petitions. They take information off the table about all the different whale subjects.
So this is about whales.
Whales,
Marine
dolphins,
mammals.
seals, yes, marine mammals.
Both pinnipeds and
Cetaceans.
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 Yeah. Pinnipeds and cetaceans, those are not motorbikes and electric cars.
No, they aren't.
But it's a good thought.
That's a good thought.
And now, how does Scott tie into this?
He came as a volunteer in 1998 and has been working ever since.
Now, Gene, back in 1982, we had 13 pilot whales that were
That's right.
stranded on the beach.
At Cisco.
And that kind of kicked things into gear here on Nantucket for you and some other folks. Tell us about that.
Well, I had already started the Marine Mammal Conservation Program in 1977. And when that happened in the winter of 81, actually, no one did anything for the whales except because there was no team here then that could help them.
And there were actually laws in place at the time.
Well, what happened was we had a game warden on the island who was in charge of all things whale and pinnipeds and everything else. So he looked at the whales being stranded on Cisco and he said, "These are federal animals. Tomorrow's the opening of the hunting season. I got to get these animals off the beach, and I should take them to federal land because they're federal animals." And so he had big equipment come in, tied chains around their tails, and dragged them to the dump through the bushes and everything else. And whales have much more sensitive skin than we do. You can imagine what these animals went through being dragged.
They were alive
and they
at
were
the time.
still alive. This was, people went crazy when they heard this. Greenpeace came a few days later when they could get to the island, and they found fluke prints in the dump where the whales were still trying to swim. And it went viral all over the island. This man didn't come out of his house for several days. And I called New England Aquarium and said, "What is going on?" "Oh, we couldn't get out there because of the storm," but they had telephones. It wasn't the 1800s. So anyway, I thought to myself, we got to have people on the island who know what they're doing. And the following summer, I put out a call for a team, and I had no trouble filling the library at the Mariah Mitchell. People just came from everywhere to join because they were still upset.
For the Nantucket Marine Mammal Stranding Team.
Yes.
And I should clarify that Gene's mentioned New England Aquarium. New England Aquarium had the stranding agreement at the time.
Yes.
And so this was their purview, their jurisdiction.
Yep.
That lasted for 33 years. And it's only been in the last 3 years that their stranding agreement has been removed as they've left the island. And so we've been without a team for the last 3 years.
And,
Right.
and so that has changed, and we're trying to get back into something like that, aren't we?
Yes. Yep. That's
and,
right.
And how is that working?
Well,
Want me
Scott.
to take that on?
Yes.
Okay.
You've been working very hard on that.
Oh, well, look, as Gene was saying, this is a federal law, the Marine Mammal Protection Act of 1972.
Right.
Therefore, it runs through the federal government. It's a very successful law, by the way. The Marine Mammal Protection Act is a role model environmental law around the world.
Right.
It's one of the best there is. So under that law, the Marine Mammal Protection Act, you need to have an agreement with the federal government, and you need to meet very specific criteria for that agreement. Nantucket is a big gap, a very important gap in the northeast stranding network, and there's 12 teams in this area. running from Virginia up to Maine. And Nantucket is actually, of all of those with regard to pinnipeds, seals, we're probably the most important because this is where human-seal interaction happens.
And there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
And there's
There's a
some
whole lot of
gnashing
that.
of teeth about that as well.
There is some gnashing of teeth, and that is part of what we're here for.
And we could probably get into that in a second. But in the meantime, the federal organization that would look over something like this is NOAA. Is that correct?
NOAA, National Marine Fisheries Service.
Okay.
And it is with them that our stranding agreement currently sits. It's gone to them. They are analyzing it. They've come back to us once and asked us to fill in some details. We've done that. And we're trying in our island way to meet these criteria. And we do have issues. I mean, we don't have the big science organizations on island. We don't have the, as we were talking earlier, we don't have the people out here with letters behind their names. We have a lot of concerned citizens and citizen scientists.
And a lot of good volunteers.
A lot
Yeah.
of good volunteers. And some of them have a great deal of experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, Scott, you're the founder and the CEO of the Marine Mammal Alliance of Nantucket.
Yes. Marine Mammal Alliance of Nantucket came on board early this year. We got our 501c3 status. Jean's been here for 40 years. This is the 40th anniversary of her beginning the Nantucket Marine Mammal Conservation Program. I took that over in 2009 when Jean was starting to do more world traveling. And since then, we've run under that auspices, the Nantucket Marine Mammal Conservation Program. But as we started looking at a stranding team, as we started looking at policy and outreach, and as we started looking at this new concept of which is called a World Whale Heritage Site, we thought we need a 501c3 to be in charge of all three of these branches of marine mammal interests.
Great organization.
Yes, and that's what we're doing now. So we've got the conservation program is outreach, policy, education, going to schools. The Whale Heritage Site is an interesting concept. As I say, we could be the world's first whale heritage site. It's run by an organization, a global organization called World Cetacean Alliance. We can get into that more later. And then probably the most important for us is the rescue team, Marine Mammal Rescue Nantucket.
That is very important. However, the World Heritage Site is something that you've been working on quite a bit, Jean,
Yes,
haven't you?
yes.
When people see Jean getting signatures, that's primarily for that.
That's right. From the end of last summer and all this summer.
And you got the required number of signatures?
Well, we've got over 3,000 now,
pretty
but
good.
that's, that's okay. That's a lot of signatures.
Now, where does this all take us?
You mean if we do get the World
Yes.
Heritage Site?
Yes.
Well, go ahead. You've been to...
I'll take that on. As I said, the World Cetacean Alliance is a global organization. It's probably got 85 members. It's based around responsible, 21st century, responsible human cetacean interaction.
And I should probably note again here, cetaceans are whales.
Whales,
Whales.
dolphins, and porpoise.
Porpoises.
Those
yes,
three marine
right.
mammals.
Right.
And there's 88 species of them. But the Whale Heritage Site concept came in to being as only a year and a half ago. And the thought was, let's create some kudos, some scientific get-together by different organizations around the world, but let's establish that around whales, dolphins, and responsible human interaction with those species. So whale watching, for instance, is a very important aspect. Now here in the United States with the Marine Mammal Protection Act, we have a very stringent law that says what you can and can't do with whales. Other areas around the world don't have that. So if they want to become a whale heritage site, they will have to lift their own game and meet the criteria that is out there. We've already done that. Our initial application has gone in, it's been accepted. We are in the process of getting to stage 2. There's finances involved in that. This is about logo and licensing and meeting criteria, and then being able to have auditors come and make sure every couple of years that you're still meeting that criteria.
Which is very important, and
Yes.
I would imagine there's some money issues there. If somebody out there watching this would like to throw some money at this project, how would they do that?
Oh, they can Well, they can go on the Marine Mammal Alliance Nantucket website or Facebook page and do exactly that. Recall, as we're talking about this, that we've just had this summer a living memory event, whale event. We've
Yes.
had up to 20 whales swimming off of the south shore of this island, 7 of them critically endangered right whales, North Atlantic right whales, 7 swimming within 25 feet of the beach. I was out and saw 2 adult North Atlantic right whales 25 feet off the beach.
Yeah.
Incredible stuff. So this could go on, this could continue. And it brings it full circle. Again, 200 years ago, 150 years ago, they were there, but we were killing them. Now, we're talking about responsible interaction with them. We're talking about going out and whale watching from the beach.
So to get this done, to have Nantucket designated as a site, what needs to be done? What has to be lined up to get that done?
We've got the culture, we've got the
Everything.
history, we've got the whales. Those are all very important aspects of consideration and criteria for a whale heritage site.
Who's looking at this? Who's deciding?
The World Cetacean Alliance.
Okay.
And located
And they're,
in
they're located in Great
Britain.
Britain. Really what needs to get done is we need to raise the funds.
Money.
The money to
Again.
get logo licensing, to be able to pass that on. I mean, logo
much?
goes probably in the vicinity of $30,000. And that is not an annual fee. That is a baseline fee to meet all the steps of the criteria, and then to have your audits. There may be a small charge of a couple of grand every 2 years. I think it's a matter of getting all the ducks in a row, and part of that is this petition that Gene's been running.
Right.
I mean, that's 3,000 signatures in how many nights, Gene?
Well, the end of last year, we didn't start it until the end.
But how many nights
and-
approximately on the sidewalk?
About 46 times I was out.
46 times 3,000 signatures. That's a pretty good response.
Yeah.
People walking by, including the new executive director of the NHA.
Right.
Saying, hey,
Signed
that's
it.
cool.
He's cool.
Yeah.
He is cool.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
told him that.
Yeah.
All right.
Very good.
Okay.
Gene and Scott, thank you very much for joining us.
Oh,
It's a pleasure.
it's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you.